I don't expect people to my shit. I'm working on being zen before the damn show starts.
How's that going?
Welcome back to another episode of 1980s Now, a weekly examination of the importance of 1980s pop culture and, get this, its continued influence today. Hey, my name is Will, and joining me as always are my friends and co-hosts, Kat and John. Hey, guys.
Hi, guys.
Hey, friends.
I got a brush handy in case I need to fix my hair, kind of like the Fonz.
Hey.
My dad always carried around, I don't think my dad was a greaser by any means. But he always carried around, I think to this day, still a black comb in his pocket. I always thought that was so cool. The Fonz did that,
Yeah.
The Fonz wouldn't ever fix his hair, of course.
Now that you mention it, I think my dad was a greaser because not only did he always carry around a black comb in his pocket, he also, more than once, I have seen.
Wait, beat up a Soch?
No. Oh. The cigarettes rolled up in your sleeve,
Okay, yeah.
Oh, yeah. That was a thing.
Mm-hmm. So you remember Schneider on One Day at a Time had something, probably a pack of cigarettes in his sleeve at the time.
Yep.
And then Bowser, I'm pretty sure Bowser and Sean and I had something. I don't think it was smokes. I don't think he ever showed what it is. But as a result, John, you're right. When I was a kid, I would roll stuff up in my white T-shirt.
Deck of cards.
It was like the epitome of cool. Deck of cards.
Or just Star Wars trading cards.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
My dad was definitely a greaser, and he used to talk about having the duck butt hair.
Duck's ass, the DA.
The duck's ass, yeah.
It's actually the back. It's actually the back.
It was the back.
The way you feather it together, it looks like a duck's behind.
Well, he had one in the front, so he was making a statement.
You couldn't tell whether he was coming or going, but it looked like a duck's asshole on his face.
Facts.
And just like everything else, that came back in the 80s. I think I'm more aware of that because kids, guys in my class did that. And I remember girls commenting on it or like, hey, I can help you do a DA, by feathering your hair.
And did you let them?
Oh, not my hair.
Nobody touches Will's hair.
That's right.
No. Are you gay? Hey.
You let me touch your hair one time.
I was older and more mature then. And you're right, it was just once.
And just the one he learned from his mistake.
That's right. Hey, by the way, we're not just about this, whatever this was, but we're also talking about current news stories related to 1980s media, including Bon Jovi Forgeries, the 1980s musical that just won a Tony, 1980s, I should put in quotes, the 1980s musical that was just canceled, again in quotes, and this time, no quotes, the 1980s musical that is headed to Broadway. Plus, we're going to be talking about the Star Wars action figure that just broke an auction record. And of course, along those lines, we're going to pause and give our feel. Oh, no, spoilers. Oh, impressive. We'll give our thoughts and feelings about all those things and also invite commentary from the folks in the Peanut Gallery, known as the YouTube and Facebook audience that joined us today. Hello, everybody. Thanks for being with us here.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, before we get started on these topics, I wanted to make a quick announcement. One day, I'm telling you, something's going to happen. His eyes are going to light up. He's just going to wander off screen.
I love it.
You're going to hear a door slam, car start up. And then we're going to turn on the news and just wait.
Florida man.
It's long in advance, but I didn't want to delay because, we've got some folks to thank in connection with this. But for now, I want to say that, hey, join us in September, September 7th and 8th in Oaks, Pennsylvania, which is just about a half hour outside of Philadelphia. At RetroCon 2024, the 1980s Now gang will be there. John, are your friends from Gen X Grown Up joining you too, or no?
No. Okay, so I'll be all yours.
For once.
But hey, so come see us. Come say hi. We're going to be doing a panel about something interesting, something nostalgic, something fascinating and hilarious and dark and scary, and all the things that you want it to be.
TBD.
And please tell us what that is. I mean, because we've got no ideas. We
really helped.
But hey, in addition to us, you can see some actual stars that you love from your youth, including Lee Majors and Lindsay Wagner. Both the Bionic Man and the Bionic Woman will be there. And additionally, and I'm really excited about seeing these folks in person, the stars of The Last Starfighter, which turns 40 this year, Catherine Mary Stewart and Lance Guest. Both of you love to see them there. And we talked to them on the show previously. We talked to her a couple of times. But I've never... which is going to be a new horn for this, John. I've never met either of them in person. So I'm excited to do that. And I've got my Last Starfighter mini poster over here on my wall right here. I'm going to bring that to get that signed.
Good call.
With a real autograph too, Bon Jovi.
Ooh, burn.
And after you get the autograph...
That was easy.
John, I blame you, John. You like open this door where like you could just do anything, or at least Kat thinks that. She thinks that this means anything.
I do.
Well, here's the thing. Yeah. You edit the show. You could take out any of this foolishness if you wanted to.
Shit.
So
I want to make you stick to Trello cards just so you can avoid doing this to me.
Oh, no.
Hey, go to RetroConsplural.com to find out more. And we'll put a link in the show notes as well. All right, that's it. Hey, let's get started in earnest on the show with 1980s news. I'm really excited about being there for lots of reasons.
Me too. I'm so excited. I'm going to start a countdown at some point, and I'll just send you guys a number every day.
You know, Kat, start it after the script is writtten for the show. Okay, otherwise, I'm just going to get
It'll be way too ominous.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
I only have X number of days to choose a topic. Oh, no.
Yes,
I don't want to create anxiety.
Hopefully some of our friends are in the area or can make the trip. I know we have actual friends that are in the New York and New Jersey area that are going to be making the trip. It's only 2 hours from New York City by way of car. Hey, okay, so this week on 1980s News, as reported by NewJersey.com, speaking of the Garden State, Bon Jovi fans claim forgeries.
Oh.
So some fans are claiming that the signed editions of Bon Jovi's new albums contain fake autographs from Mr. Bon Jovi. And they're addressing this matter in the most effective, responsible, contemporary way possible. They've taken to social media to accuse the band's label of deception.
There you go.
I guess that's a means for shaming some people into things, but sometimes you just reach out to the offending party and say, "Hey, can you square this for me? Make this right." Hopefully, these people tried that first, but
right, yeah, that was my hope too.
I wouldn't put a big bet on that one.
The problem, of course, is I guess until you see enough momentum, you're not sure that your experience is unique. And sometimes we see people complain about things that are, individual in nature. And so get that addressed versus creating some sort of uproar and, hard feelings against the brand that may just have made a simple mistake. Now, this one seems to be a little different than that, although I don't know. I think deception is probably a little strong. The claim is that UMG used AutoPen to, quote, forge the signature of the Jersey rock star. One Twitter user wrote, "Dear UMG, it's costing you a lot of money to lie about your products." How many people are getting a refund on this? I know your time is so precious, but lying to fans ain't the win. Nobody wants auto-penned.
First of all, is there proof? Is this actually true? Are they actually not genuine?
Well, according to a thread on Autograph Live, a site that supposedly helps folks distinguish the difference between real and fake autographs, they have cited at least 6 what they believe are templates for AutoPen signatures. Okay. And Kevin Keating, who's the principal autograph authenticator for Professional Sports Authenticator, confirmed to Clicked, whatever that is, CLICT, that some of the autographs were done by AutoPen due to a machine, and he could tell because of machine-like tremors and clear starts and stops. He said if these autographs were brought to him for authentication, he would deem them, quote, not authentic.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
If watching Pawn Stars has taught me anything, it's first of all, it's live ink is the first thing you check. But then you're looking for those little hesitations, those little, that either a machine would, or I'm not the expert, but I watched the expert do his cool thing, and he's looking for, isn't there hesitation, or is there like varying pressure or thickness or whatever, things a person would do that AutoPen might not do as well, and further would do it exactly the same over and over and over and over, which would probably lead to finding, like you said, like the 6 that they can identify maybe that are can follow the same characteristics.
Yeah. They provided some examples online, and there were no explanations or, exhibits or markings to distinguish one from the other. But I did note that you could see 2 or 3 in a row that were identical.
Oh,
as far as the size and the swooshes and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, anyway, the strange thing to me is that the special editions, the autographed edition, the special edition, the autographed edition of Forever, cost the same amount as the standard edition. But some fans say it's not about the price. They feel like they've been lied to instead. Also, some fans are complaining that the signature is actually on the sleeve rather than on the album itself. Some are complaining that the signature was printed on a sort of darker background with black ink, making it nearly impossible to actually see the quote unquote autograph. Yeah.
So I used to be quite an autograph hound back in my college days when I went to lots of sci-fi conventions, and I was, it was like I was a tick list. Like, I don't have this actor yet from this series. I don't have this actor. And I would, on different things, on shirts and pictures and whatever. And now those I got myself, right? So someone could go, well, that's a fake. I'm like, all right, if you think it is, that's okay. But I know, and I'm not selling it anyway. It's mine. But I get the sentiment. There's one thing to say that, well, it didn't cost you any extra, but I would almost look, if it's not a genuine autograph, you really just scribbled on my record. Like, I only want someone to write on it if it's the celebrity. If it's not the celebrity, just leave it blank. Leave it alone, because it's going to rub you the wrong way forever to go, it's not real. I get it why people are upset, but maybe choose your battles. So,
and no one paid extra for this, right? It wasn't
But they did buy them. They could have bought them specifically because they got a chance at getting that autograph. Right. Even though, I tend to agree with that sentiment of the tweet, which was, you spent a lot of effort telling us it was an autograph. You'd have been better off just not.
Yeah. I've always avoided products, John, to your point, that have clearly it's, it's not an autograph. It's just part of the product is the signature.
It's printed on there,
it's just turned off to me. Yeah, whether it's not necessarily albums, but I've seen other things like photographs or posters that have that kind of thing. It's like, why would I want that?
Baseballs or bats or whatever, things like that. It's like, it's not real. It's a reproduction of all these people's autographs. Like, I mean, I can look at that online. I don't need a physical fake.
And then when I show it to people, am I explaining every time that I know that's not a real autograph? It's just fake. It's
before you bust my chops.
It's just how I bought it. For their part, when asked about these claims, a spokesperson for John Bon Jovi said, quote, John has posted often. And with this statement, he included a picture of the singer appearing to sign copies of the album. So that's the proof.
Too.
And what it is there's like a stack of CDs, and John's looking at them like, literally his face is like, oh shit.
So many.
He's got a marker in one hand.
Yep. Did you get the picture? All right, I'm out of here.
Exhibit A, Your Honor. Yeah, I know. Come on, so silly. That doesn't mean shit.
And behind him is the auto pen machine.
Here is John turning on the auto pen. Yeah.
The only autographs I have are John, George, and Mo from Gen X Grown Up, and like Donald Duck and Mickey Mouse from years ago.
All the clowns. Perfect.
Yeah.
All the caricatures of actual people.
Yeah, I have an autograph of John and Mo as well.
And for a short time, leave that go.
Very short time.
Let's see. Brandon says, who knows what it is? Who knows what is what when it comes to autographs? As a sports card collector, nothing is 100% authentic unless they have a certificate of authenticity. Yeah, now, and unlike in the past, in the recent years, when you go to a con, they have an organization there that for a fee will authenticate the signature. Most often you're going straight from someone's table where they signed it and bringing it to this group, but they still scrutinize it there. They don't just assume you got it from that celebrity who happens to be there.
I've been to some of those conventions, and often they will literally have a gopher who accompanies you in the line, watches the person sign it, and walks with you back to the authentication booth. So now there's a witness. And it protects the integrity of the verification company. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that as well. And I did see in one instance someone come over with someone from the authentication company to confirm. They were like, look, he brought this over, but we're not sure. We thought this is, did you sign this? You did? Oh, okay, cool. Just wanted to make sure because something was a little off. But these people are signing literally thousands of autographs in a day. So by the end of the day or the weekend, I can imagine it being a little different and more, but. Did you guys ever practice your autograph from when you'd become famous?
I wouldn't say that I thought I was going to be famous, but I did work on my signature in high school because I was unhappy with it. And I just wanted to love my signature.
More flourish.
Well, yes. So I came up with a way that I use to this day. Although it's gotten a little loopier.
Does the A have ears over it and whiskers?
There's no
That's what I would
ears.
guess. And the T is a tail.
I like your ideas, though. I'm going to take this under advisement.
Yeah.
Now, Kat, just to clarify, the signature has become loopier, or you have over the years become?
Oh, I'm not sure which came first.
Both is an option. Now, John, every time you sign an autograph, is it the same autograph or?
Yeah, it is. It is. I have a little autograph that includes a little GXG initial in it because I practiced for when I was a celebrity and just it hasn't happened. But
hey, another 1980s news, as reported by the New York Times, The Outsiders wins the Tony for Best Musical. So there you go.
And this was the first time I knew there was an Outsiders musical.
Oh, even though we did a story about it on the show. That's cool.
Yeah. Well, it didn't stick with me because I've still not seen the film or read the book. So.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I never read the book, but the movie is good. It's definitely good.
I just watched it not that long ago. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
I know.
Yeah, that's right.
I like how the New York Times writes this. They wrote a, quote, muscular stage adaptation.
Yes, I love that as an adjective for it.
A muscular stage adaptation of the young adult novel about class conflict between a pair of high school gangs who won the coveted Tony Award for Best Musical on Sunday, June 16th. Now I'm picturing John and Kat's dads as a member of one of these gangs. The show's been gaining...
When you're a trucker, you're a trucker.
Yeah, that's right. The trucker gang.
The Greaser Trucker Gang.
Now I picture they got a crowbar.
It's axle grease, of course.
Yeah. Oh, the grease. Oh.
Perfect. They just reach down to the transmission and get a big gooey green glob of axle grease.
The show, The Outsiders, which has been gaining steam at the box office, is set in Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1967 and is based not only on the best-selling novel by S.E. Hinton, but also on the Francis Ford Coppola 1983 film. Now, during the Tonys, they shared one of the numbers, and they also shared one of the fight scenes, which I want to talk about.
Oh my gosh!
But it seems to be gritty, I guess, is a way of describing it. They skewed the story, even making it even more youthful, focusing on the stories of these young people by eliminating virtually all of the adult characters that were in the novel and I guess I'm trying to think of what adult characters were in the movie. There are probably a couple of glimpses.
There's not many. I really can't. I couldn't call anybody up. The junkyard. The junkyard owner who chased them out. I'm trying to think of anybody else who really stood out. Oh, wrong movie. Never mind.
Yeah,
wrong movie.
I need to get there. It also
are you thinking of
features.
Stand By Me? Is that
Just gonna let it
that was a dog?
Do you remember when the ball went over the fence and they couldn't get the ball back because of the dog and the train on the tracks?
In quick succession, and they're mushing together.
Yeah, and you couldn't get those things wet after midnight. Anyway, but back to this Broadway show. It features some of the most effectively vivid violence seen on a Broadway stage, using a mix of choreography and strobe lights and sound in a way that sounds like fists on flesh.
Yeah,
it evokes the brutality that pervades this story of these two rival groups. Quite honestly, I knew about this and I thought it was going to bug me. And I've seen some smaller clips and I thought, that looks kind of dopey. I mean, it took like West Side Story type dance fighting and they made it worse. But I thought when you see the entire thing, though, I thought it was effective. The way they roll about in synchronous, because they're not always in synchronous, but ultimately they do. And they have these flashes of light where they're kind of in slow motion. And you see for a moment, suddenly someone who was perfectly fine a moment ago has a bloodied mouth. And then they disappear and someone else comes out in a flash of light. You see a blood streaming from a nose. I thought that was really visceral. Evocative?
Good adjectives, along with muscular.
Thank you.
I didn't watch any other clips except for the one today. I loved it. Watching that fight scene made me want to see the musical. I thought it was so cool. And maybe it's because I love dance.
Yeah. And Kat remind everybody, folks, Kat is a dancer, trained dancer.
And a ninja, so she likes punching as well. So
Yeah, absolutely.
She likes vivid violence.
It's really the confluence of her loves in one
It
thing.
is. Dancing and battle.
She's also a phlebotomist, so she loves the sight of blood.
But it was synchronized punching, which was a little weird. That part, it's still, I thought it was effective. The lighting was effective. The effects were effective because they're effects, I guess. But it was a bit odd that they're all fighting exactly the same at the same moment and punching at the same time. I get why they did it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it was bad. I'm saying that was the one part of it. I'm like, it's like synchronized swimming, but fighting. And so they were all together, and it was with slight variations, certainly. But the effects and lighting, super, super effective.
And I think I liked it. I mean, of course, it's not realistic. It's never, no fight is ever going to happen that way. But it was a thrill to my eyes. Because I love synchronous things. You know, everyone managing to do something at the same time is just something I really love.
Yeah, I think it works. I don't know. Unlike Kat, I don't know that this will have made me any more interested because the music kind of turned me off a little bit. I think it was fitting. The music seemed to fit with the era and the tone of the story. So in that sense, but it's the kind of music that I'm not interested in hearing people sing for 2 hours.
Yeah. And as you know, I'll watch a stage production of anything. I think live theater is one of the most captivating things ever. Watching it on screen is like, oh, now I know what's in it. Yeah. But that's not the point. Like I saw the Hamilton when it came out on Disney Plus during the pandemic.
Right.
And that was cool, but I don't feel like I've seen it really. You know, I haven't really experienced it. Well,
in spite of mixed reviews, the show's been playing to full houses, fueled in part by healthy interest from young patrons. And it's been grossing about $1 million a week, which is solid, it turns out, but not spectacular for a show of this scale. The hope, of course, is that the Tony Award will boost the box office.
Wait.
Yeah.
Wait. Hold on. Sold out theaters and it's not making enough money?
It's not that it's not making enough money.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Right. But I mean, if you set your prices and you're selling out, you must have your prices set wrong if you're not making ends meet, right?
It's possible. And I actually do want to talk about that in a moment. Yeah.
Maybe it's just really recent. Maybe it's just, you know,
like they're just starting to sell
a couple
out?
of weeks.
Right. I mean, like, you know, I have 10 glasses of lemonade to sell and I've spent 90 cents on them. And so I'm going to charge 8 cents per glass. Well, wait. If you want to make ends meet, you need to make sure that the volume you sell at the price you sell it will make up for your expenses. So if they're filling the house and not making enough money, that's either a venue or a pricing problem.
Yeah. I don't know if this, at least just this note here suggests that they're in the red. I think it implies that they could be even more profitable if they were priced differently. But you know, one of the challenges, probably like to Kat's point, being early on, is tickets are sold in advance. You know, you can once a show opens or before it opens, tickets are available for sale, and that's only after it's, you know, they stop selling them through a certain date because they honestly don't know if they're going to be open anymore. And now they can probably adjust the prices, you know, for anything that hasn't been sold yet or, you know, scheduled. Among the show's co-producers is Angelina Jolie, who introduced a performance by the company on the Tony Awards telecast saying, quote, "Society changes, but the experience of being an outsider is universal. To any young person, any person feeling on the outside, you are not wrong to see what is unfair. You are not wrong to wish to find your own path." Cool. And if you're unable to make the trip to New York City, where it's running right now, the musical's producers have announced plans to start a North American tour in 2025. Opening, of course, at the Tulsa Performing Arts Center.
Appropriately enough.
So, you know, let's compare and contrast, because we've got these. Let me see. What we got here? Brandon says, I don't know about the musical, but I do like the Outsiders film. The only thing that seemed off to me was the school fire, which seemed like a stretch to progress the film's narrative.
Right. I didn't. Having just watched it recently, and I'm not mushing this up with anything else.
Are you? All right.
Right. When they get to 88 miles per hour in the film.
They go back to 1967.
Yeah, in Tulsa.
And then they do the swan or the crane. What am I?
Doc, are we socials or greasers? I don't know whose ass I should kick.
I did not think, it didn't seem like the fire was contrived to me, but I can see it played a very important role. Like, ooh, if that hadn't happened, it would have been a very different movie. So yeah.
That's because Kat's also an arsonist.
Another of her interests.
As a way of, because I did want to talk about this. So here's the alternative, I guess, or a contrary production. Per Deadline, Heart of Rock and Roll closed after mere weeks at the box office. And I'm really bummed out about this because folks I know have seen it, raved about it, said it was hilarious and entertaining. We already know the music because it's the songs of Huey Lewis. With less than 100 performances, the musical built around the hits of Huey Lewis played its final performance at a matinee on Sunday.
I want to hear John's Foley of the Heart of Rock and Roll again. Did you hear him?
No, I didn't.
Oh, yeah.
I was doing the show, like the part I do. Okay, cool.
It's the lead in to the song. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that that's in there, by the way. Yeah.
I'm just doing a little Foley for you.
Yeah. What you should do is you do that, and like I'll just talk uninterrupted, and it'll just color what we're doing.
That's what I did.
And people will enjoy
That's
it.
what I did. That's what I did right up
it.
until Kat asked me to do it again.
Oh, right. That's
and I worked really hard to not say anything about it at the moment. Really hard.
What happened afterwards?
I let you keep talking.
She gets at the curtain. She's like, this is Kat working the curtain. Hey, look back here, guys. Look back here. See what's going on. Check this out. Before she's leaning on the rope. No, don't do it. Don't do it. After. Check this out. Look what's going on back here. Anyway, per this. So let me give you some details. So we just talked about these folks are making, they had, mixed reviews, making $1 million a week. And it cost, I do remember reading that it cost, I think, $22 million initially to get this show off the ground.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
When they're showcasing it and developing it, in theaters before it gets to Broadway. But this musical, the Huey Lewis one, received lukewarm reviews. So that's not all that different than mixed reviews. I think it's slightly, maybe slightly more negative. Didn't receive any Tony Award nominations and has been struggling at the box office. Sometimes with the theater just half full.
Wow.
And just as a way of contrasting with The Outsiders, for the week ending June 9th, the show grossed a tiny $272,000.
Wah, wah.
Now,
that's rough.
But I think we certainly have talked about this before. We've all talked about our love for theater. John's already expressed as much just on this show alone. When I was a kid, having the, what I thought was the good fortune to live where I did, I could go into New York City, pretty much, whenever I wanted to, certainly as I got older, it was just a train station away from Jersey City, a PATH train ride. Certainly to get into New York, I guess it'd be another train to get into New York, to get to Times Square. You'd have to so you go to Penn Station, I guess. And then, anyway.
That might be air horn worthy.
to know my way around New York.
He's been on a train?
Yeah.
No, because it sounded like you were like, yeah, it was so easy for me to.
Paging all retro hounds. If you're searching for your next nostalgia fix, look no further than Retro Days on YouTube, home of the flagship series Celebrating Yesteryear, hosted every Saturday by our very own John Reddick. Presents a topic from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, imbued with John's Reddickness and a healthy dose of humor, dripping with nostalgia. The show's dripping with nostalgia, not John, or maybe both.
His air conditioning's fine now.
The AC was
dripping.
out.
Yeah, all right, there you go. Hey, come for topics like VCR board games and stay for experiences like the best 1980s sleepover ever. Head over to youtube.com/retrodays to catch up on past episodes, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the new episodes posted every Saturday. At Retro Days, they don't just remember the past, they celebrate it. For me, I'm trying not to be hyperbolic, but I do think those experiences of seeing shows in New York, seeing live theater, like John pointed out, were influential in my life. And I don't mean necessarily just wanting to pursue theater and entertainment and those things, which I did. It was like movies, right? Certainly, in the sense that you got to see perspectives and stories that you wouldn't otherwise be exposed to in your life. and stories that, you know, and a lot of them are obviously they're fictional, but and the fact, like John said, that these folks there's actually humans on stage doing it adds this level of authenticity and reality that's not present in watching a film. Certainly not watching something on TV. Yeah.
There's no net. Yep.
And so those stories, they really sort of, you know, embed, I think, on you, you know, when you see them. And at the time, my recollection at least was, it was affordable enough for me to do that. You know, my parents didn't have a lot of money, certainly for me to go seeing, you know, sitting in the orchestra of some Broadway show. Right. But I did see off-Broadway shows, and most oftentimes we went to the TKTS booth at Times Square, which you can get discount tickets. And you'd see whatever you could see. Like John says, all right, you look at the board when you get to the front of the line, what's the cheapest or most affordable and intersects with my interests. I've never seen it. I don't know what it is. Let's go see that.
Or maybe have seen it, and that's okay too. Sometimes,
If you loved it, you might enjoy it again. Yeah.
Quite honestly, I don't know. I do have some information here, and I'm going to tell you it. Maybe we could figure it out together. But I feel like we're at a point now, and I think I'm actually about to contradict myself with some of this, but that's okay. In my imagination, at least, anecdotally, the theater prices have gotten to a point where folks like me, a kid sneaking over from Jersey City, can't just go see a show.
I think that's entirely accurate. For some shows, depending upon the show, certainly. But I want to say it had to be, I don't know, 2013, 14, doesn't matter. But I went and I saw Book of Mormon on Broadway in their theater where it wasn't the first cast, but they were still huge. They had won their Tonys and everything. Yeah. And nosebleed seats were $250 a piece.
Oh, man.
Wasn't cheap.
And John, was that getting it through a third-party vendor?
Well, I was traveling, and so I probably went through the theater. I probably said, look, I Googled, buy tickets for Broadway, Book of Mormon kind of thing. And maybe it was the theater or whoever their booking agent was. Maybe it was Ticket Bastards or whoever. Well, I don't know who it was at the time.
Probably,
But it was not, and anywhere I went, it wasn't like it was $250 here and $100 there. It was, everybody was, for me, for my family to see it, the three of us, it was $800. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, that's insane.
Oh my gosh,
worth it, but still, huge. Not, as you said, you can't just come across on the train and see it, with your allowance anymore.
And so I did some digging just to check myself, reality with regard to my experience in the 1980s, and certainly compare it to now. Broadway tickets, which were middle class fare in the mid-century, cost an average of $18 in 1980. Which was the first year that the Broadway League started actually tracking these numbers. So we don't know as accurately prior to that what they were. That would be about $67 today when adjusted for inflation. Per an article I found by the New York Times at that time, and there were a few saying how ticket prices are outrageous now. Theaters may be shutting down because they're just out of control. Which, by the way, I've seen that article probably every decade written, including most recently. Theater's not going anywhere. But per this contemporary article, contemporaneous article by the New York Times Magazine, they said, quote, the high cost of a Broadway show, end quote. And they also said that, quote, some people think that eventually the bubble will burst, end quote. Well, as a time traveler from the year 2024, bubble is not yet popped. Now the average ticket price is about $136. And I want to say asterisks, because I think John's experience is more accurate. If you're lucky enough to get a show directly from a theater early enough on, maybe you're paying that. But as the show goes on, gets more popular, as you get a third-party vendor who snatched up blocks of tickets, you're not paying that anymore.
There's a huge difference between I want to see this show on this date, I need this ticket, and as you suggested, walking up to tickets at the booth there down from Broadway and walking up and seeing what's cheap, what's only $60 or $70. I have done that. I saw Bryan Cranston portray, I don't know, some president or something. I don't know. I forget what that was about. Great show. Saw Bryan Cranston. It was really cool. I had no interest in that story or that show, but it was the one that was available at a good price, and I saw it and loved it. Because it was live.
And you wouldn't have seen it
I would not have said, well, I'm flying on this date to go and see this play about some president, right? That's Cranston's play. I would not have done that, but yeah. It's different if it's an event versus see what you can get at a good price.
When I was in college, we, a couple of times we would go in, a group of us, and see what was available. So that's how I saw Les Miserables. Before that, my first time on going to see a Broadway play was in high school, and we went as a club. Like there was some group. I forget what club it was, and I saw
Ninja Club.
Cats. Yeah, the Ninja Club, the Fraggle Ninja Club, and I don't remember it being. If it had been expensive, I wouldn't have gone. I would not have been able to go.
Group rate.
But I took my daughter on her
group rate. I'm sure.
Yeah. That's
group rate. Oh yeah, I'm sure there was a group rate too. I took my daughter when she turned 16 to go see Kinky Boots, and I was like, "What? Oh my gosh, what am I doing?" It was so expensive, but it was special enough. And one of the leads was a performer that she really, really, really wanted to see. And I thought, okay, you only turned 16 once, so we'll do this.
I remember hearing anecdotally that when Hamilton was in its heyday, that it was running upwards of $1,000 for a ticket. I remember hearing about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I never saw that, and certainly not at that price.
And that's definitely scalpers. You know, our friend, Kat and I have a friend who is one of the producers of Hamilton. And so we were able, when I went to see it, we were able to buy tickets directly from the theater. It was under $200 to sit like the fourth row.
Wow.
I think it was $130. You know, which, and I don't mean to sound say that's cheap necessarily, but I know what you're talking about, John. And yeah, you get them off of one of these, you know, StubHubs or whatever. Yeah.
Right. Yep.
And look, so part of my gripe is it seems certainly like it's more expensive. And as a result, you get a smaller and smaller, audience that can see these tickets. It turns out that maybe for a long time, however, theater tickets have been, it hasn't been middle-class fare for very long, I don't think, or in a long time.
Yeah.
But looking at one statistic from a 2013 study, the 80% of all tickets were purchased by Caucasian theater goers, and they were quite affluent compared to the general population, reporting an averaging annual household income of $200,000 or more. So, again, the kid who's middle class or lower middle class or poor, it's life changing seeing live theater. It just makes me sad.
Yeah.
Yes.
There are discounts if you can be flexible, like John's pointing out. Group rates. They have some based on age, some based on occupation, military, senior, student, for example. They had this one I read about. It sounds crazy. In April of this year, they did this thing called 20 at 20, which here's how you qualify. You can get a $20 ticket if you show up at the theater 20 minutes before curtain for 20 days.
What?
After that, they'll give you a $20 ticket. You suffered enough, kid.
So for 3 weeks, you just got to waste your time standing there, and then eventually you'll get a ticket?
Yeah.
That seems like garbage.
Wow.
Now, with regard to the prices, I did find this recent article talking about how, because my main thing is like make them cheaper, but we're talking about maybe $1 million isn't a big windfall for outsiders. And according to this article, prices can't be lower, and they won't be lower. They're astronomical because the production costs are. To which I say, make simpler productions. I love Back to the Future. I don't know that I need to see a flying car, people zipping around on Segways, all this kind of shit.
Spider-Man swinging through the rafters.
Again, in the 80s, the shows were not that produced like that. And there wasn't one that I said, this is shit, because it just got a kitchen table and 2 chairs on the stage. That was fine.
Right.
And I think I told you when I used to travel on the road all the time and I would go to those places and just see if there's any live theater. Yeah. I remember just one day I was free in Chicago and just went down to the theater district and walked up to the first theater that was open and said, what are they showing? I'll buy a ticket. And it was a bootstrap production. I think there were 8 actors total, and a lot of them were like Kat doing the curtains in between scenes. They were double dutying up on the crew. And I didn't like it any less because it has that same intimacy of just live theater. Look, they're taking it as seriously as the guys that you paid $150 to see. Yeah. And you feel it the same. It doesn't have to have all the glitz and glamour. I get that that's elevates it somehow, maybe for some people, but I get the same charge out of it, regardless of the caliber of the production, as long as the actors are as committed. And they always are. They always are, no matter how cheap or shoestring it is.
I've seen some great local high school productions where I was like, this is fantastic.
Oh,
Just commit.
yes,
They're selling it.
absolutely.
And talking about these production budgets, according to the Stage blog, they can often be 6 figures per week. So you can see why $1 million might not cut it when you add in the salaries and all that stuff.
Right.
And also they go on to point out that prices won't be lower because with demand consistently surpassing the available seats, which aren't, plenty. They aren't plentiful. For folks who haven't seen a Broadway show, you get, obviously this, perspective that this is Broadway. You've made it. This is where you see. The theaters are small. I think like a big theater is less than 2,000 people, but you could be in a theater where it's just several hundred. Certainly feels that way. And so they have to charge enough per ticket to make up for it. But because the demand is high, producers will charge as much as they can until the market, changes. So they're not motivated to charge less, even if they can. Anyway, there you go. There's my pet peeve of the thing.
And the thing about live theater too is there is no substitute for it, right? I can't go download live theater. I can't go rent live theater, right? It has to be in the moment, experienced in real time. And so that they have you over a barrel. There's one way to get it, and that's walk in the theater.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, final thing about Broadway before we lose everybody. But this is also related to the 1980s. Per Billboard, Beat Street is headed to Broadway. So it turns out the rapper Nas, who's a contemporary rapper, certainly someone who grew up in the 1980s, was popular in the last few decades, is working on adapting the beloved 1984 hip-hop movie Beat Street for Broadway. He's working to expand and create new material inspired by the original film's soundtrack, for which he will also co-produce. He'll be collaborating with for this adaptation with producer Arthur Baker, who actually himself was a co-producer of the film, a composer, and musical producer for the original movie. Arthur Baker's also produced a number of folks, stuff for Africa Bambaataa, New Order. I mean, he and this other producer, whose name I might get wrong, John, it's Robbie or Roby, R-O-B-I-E, are the guys who you wouldn't know them by name, but they created that sort of the electro beats that populated, that we sort of borrowed or, interpolated from like Kraftwerk and European bands and used it for hip hop music, creating this other kind of electro hip hop, that just caught fire and then influenced dance music, like freestyle music. So Arthur Baker is part of that, a guy you may not know by name, but is a big part of that lineage. I'm hoping to talk to him one day. I'm trying to track him down and get a good contact for him. Anyway, the news regarding the Beat Street Broadway musical was announced on June 14th, just after a 40th anniversary screening of the film was at Tribeca Festival. And it marks the Queen's rapper first dip into the Broadway world. Of course it is, right? I mean, what else was it, I guess? According to Nas, quote, Beat Street wasn't just a film. It spread the revolution of hip-hop culture throughout the country and the world. It left an indelible mark, inspiring generations of young artists and creating new hip-hop fans alike, end quote.
All right.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with the film, it's, it's a cult classic now, certainly, but it follows a DJ. It's like all of the pillars of the hip hop culture.
Right.
You got a DJ,
graffiti artist,
you got a graffiti artist, you got a break dancer. Let's see, there's 2 other pillars. Well, one of them is knowledge. An MC. Other thing would be MCing. So we don't have that, I guess. MC. But they're in the South Bronx trying to make it on, during this burgeoning rap scene, and they're different, or hip hop scene. They're all pursuing these different individual sort of lanes, as within the culture. It was actually inspired by an original story called The Perfect Beat by journalist Stephen Hager, who sold the story to producer Harry Belafonte, who ultimately made the film. And it's clearly inspired by films that had just come out just a year earlier, really. In particular, Wild Style, which is a fictional film, and Style Wars, which is a documentary about that scene. Sure. In fact, Beat Street lifts a real-life graffiti artist character, this archetype, from Style Wars and creates a fictional version of him and their film. And just like Breakin', which I've talked about many times now, and we spoke with Lucinda Dickey just a short time ago, which was released a month earlier. And you got to remember, the folks who were making Breakin', they heard that Beat Street was coming out, and they were like, work harder, work faster. Here's the true story. They we got to get out first, and they did. They beat them by just a month.
They had a countdown.
Those 2 films, combined, it's certainly Beat Street. were like a primer for mainstream audiences as to what hip hop was. And for many people, it was the first time they saw this type of dancing, in particular. I guess you were familiar with graffiti by then, certainly if you lived in New York. It starred Ray Don Chong and Guy Davis, among others, and had cameos by a lot of up-and-coming hip hop artists, who are now legends like DJ Kool Herc, Dougie Fresh, Africa Bambaataa, and it featured heavily the dancers of real life break crews, the New York City Breakers and Rocksteady crew.
Why would you go get an actor and try to teach them to do that when you have crews out there that are doing this?
And the battles are fantastic. When we were kids, just like breaking, we would just stay in the theater and try to bite all the moves. This is the symbol for biting. Bite all the moves, which you shouldn't do. It's not verboten.
I can't wait to watch it. It's on my list.
Let's see. Do you have any comments related to this here? Karen says, I know it's not the same as live, but PBS great performance is a good thing to watch if you can't get to a theater. Oh, and for the past 5 Christmases, I saw my nieces in the Nutcracker. Yeah. Karen, you remind me, when I was a kid, before we went to actual Broadway shows, that's what we watched. And there were tons of it. Do they still do that? That's great if they do it. There were so many shows that you couldn't see if you didn't live in New York. And we did, but I was just too little to go. But my parents would put that on. And my dad loves theater and loves musicals in particular. So that's how we would see it too. And Miss So agrees that the small theaters can be fun.
I'm not sure you're going to like what Chad had to say.
What did Chad say?
He says, I fell asleep when I saw Beat Street.
That's fine. Look, everything's not for everybody. That's fine. That's fine.
That was not on my list of 3 films I fell asleep in. So
I fell asleep watching Thunderdome recently.
Yeah,
that was at home. That doesn't count.
That I get. That takes a while.
Wow.
Hey, finally, in 1980s news per CNN, this Star Wars figure broke an auction record. So on May 31st of this year, wait a second here. What do we do? Okay. On May 31st this year, a Star Wars Boba Fett action figure, which was released in 1979, which was still in the original package, which would we say that on card? I think we say that, right, John? The collectors say.
Carded. Yep.
It was carded. Sold for $84,000. But that is a pittance, it turns out, when compared to the fee fetched by the Boba Fett that never was.
It was.
Sort of. It's my Boba Fett.
Get out. Turn it around.
Now, this doesn't have the J slot is just plasticed over. There's no actual little thing there.
A non-firing.
But the Fett that I'm referring to, which was never officially released in stores, has become the most valuable vintage toy ever sold at auction. Of course, we're talking about the rocket-firing Boba Fett action figure, which is modeled after the bounty hunter. It was purchased in Dallas by an anonymous buyer. Now, why do they always hide who they are when they do these things, right? People spend like a shitload of money on toys, and then they're like, I don't want anybody to know.
Okay. I'm going to tell you why.
Yeah, I want to know,
Because
please.
if you know where that expensive toy is, and you find out where I live,
True.
2 and 2 together.
Two.
Is that what it is? You're okay. Oh, wow. I never
That's
thought
why
of it
people
that
that
way.
win the lottery don't announce that they won the lottery because, well, for slightly different reasons. People come out of the woodwork, but
that's what I thought. Suddenly you have a lot more cousins than you realize.
well, it's possible, right? But you can't give them that toy and share it. But certainly someone nefarious could go, well, if you bought it, if it's not in a safe deposit box, and you're not going to buy it and put it in a box, it's going to be on display in your house, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like maybe my most expensive single thing is that ET cartridge that was dug out of the Alamogordo Desert from the burial in '83. I paid $1,000 for it. Is it in a box?
Wow.
Hell no. It is framed on the wall.
I thought you were going to say it's in your console.
No.
I finished that thing.
I'm playing it.
When you spend that kind of money on a collectible, that's a trophy. That's not buried in the closet. So it'd be easy to come, break in your house and gink.
So this is like the opposite of the lottery. For the lottery, all these people show up, right? For this, there's, a few, like you said, nefarious.
Yep.
There's somebody who's going to target that toy. So, yeah.
There's always somebody.
Yeah, I get it. Well, this gentleman from, actually, I don't know if it's a gentleman. It could be, I'm assuming it's a gentleman because the article I read says most of them are men. And that makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
Wanting their dolls.
But this anonymous buyer paid $525,000, according to Heritage Auctions. It dethroned Barbie from the #1 spot she had held since 2010 when a version of the iconic doll, this is Boba Fett with the rocket firing beat in a Barbie that had a necklace made of real diamonds.
Right. Intrinsic value outside of the Barbie.
Yeah. Yes.
But Boba Fett is just Boba Fett, except you can swallow the rocket and die.
The Barbie only sold for $302,000. Yeah. Yeah, the Rocket Fett, as it's sometimes called, was part of a mail-away promotion from American toy maker Kenner, which had sold popular toys from properties like Star Wars and Batman. I loved mail-aways, right? That was the most thrilling thing when they did those, in part, just because I loved getting mail as a kid. So I would write to anybody who I think would write me back. But if you got written back and a toy came with it, a Star Wars toy?
Yeah. You know, over on Retro Days YouTube channel, they did a great piece on celebrating yesteryear about the excitement of mail-aways and how that mailbox was like magic, waiting for it and getting something. Even if it was just a letter that had something in it, you'd be like, it's for me. It's not for my parents, not for anybody else. I sit away for it. I got it. And it's going to be full of goofy stuff. You know, it's a Kool-Aid points redemption and who knows what, a sticker, but it's mine, you know, it's awesome.
The only thing that I didn't like about the Star Wars mail-aways is I had to cut the card because I like to keep those.
Proof of purchase.
You know? I was keeping all the cards because I thought it was like a cool little like poster almost, you know, with the picture and everything. But anyway, I have a Zuckus because of a mail-away. I think I have somebody else too as a mail-away. But Zuckus, I think you could only get as a mail-away. Or is it for LOM?
Who's Zuckus?
He's the one that, you don't know Star Wars very well. He's one of the bounty hunters.
Oh, okay.
Which one? Oh, okay.
Gotcha.
Sorry.
Maybe it was for LOM. Huh. Anyway, one of the bounty hunters. You can only get it from him, but I have him still. Anyway, so there, you got this Boba Fett, but they advertised they were going to do this rocket launching of Boba Fett if you did a mail-in. But Kenner ultimately decided to attach the plastic rocket onto the toy because it posed a choking hazard to children.
Yep.
Yes.
And ultimately, when kids received their Boba Fett from this mail-away, it had a note that explained why the change had occurred. Turns out that Kenner backed off releasing the missile-firing Fett after reports of another rocket shooting from a large, soon-to-be large, science fiction franchise, certainly not outdoing Star Wars, posed a choking hazard. I'm talking about Battlestar Galactica.
Yes. Yep.
Which, by the way, George Lucas sued them as soon as they were working on that. He's like, you stole all my shit.
Yep.
The gall of George Lucas to say someone stole ideas from him.
We've got a vintage toy store here in town, and they have a box Cylon Raider that has the firing rockets. Okay. So they were released. That's not like those are super rare.
Those came out.
Having the rockets, it's what's super rare because they're not permanently attached. They're spring loaded and designed to fly across the room and behind the couch. You know,
I think it was my Micronauts that had rocket firing things, and they had fists that could shoot. You lost that shit like the second or third time you used it. And when I was a kid, I really imagined, like, is there like a black hole or portal or something? As I know it went under this couch. But now we moved all the furniture. It's gone.
And probably half of my friends who had the big 2-foot Godzilla with the firing fist did not have the fist anymore.
That's a big fist.
I know. It's like a baseball. It's enormous, but it's gone. It's probably out in the yard somewhere in a tree.
Well, with regard to the Battlestar Galactica toy, in September of 1978, the show debuted on TV across U.S., becoming an overnight hit. And Mattel had already witnessed by then the success that Kenner had with their toy line. And so they snatched up the licensing for this TV show and got to work designing a series of Battlestar Galactica spaceships that fired spring-loaded missiles.
Awesome.
The toys flew off the shelves that season. Very popular. On December 8th, 1978, however, their troubles with the toy came to light when the Consumer Products Safety Commission announced that there had been 3 formal reports of children inhaling or swallowing the toy missiles. John, you make me think. Because the toys had passed safety regulations at the time. Mm-hmm. What are those tests like? All right. Hey, Bob, just stand still for a second.
Open your mouth. I'm going to try to shoot this rocket in your face. Okay. See if you swallow it.
Yeah. So at the time, Mattel agreed to put warning stickers on existing inventory to warn, parents and children of these potential danger. Yeah. But that wasn't the end, because on December 25th, 1978, a 4-year-old named Robert Jeffrey Warren was playing with a Cylon Raider ship when the missile discharged into his mouth and got stuck in his larynx. And unfortunately, just a few days later, he died of injuries he suffered.
Oh man.
As a result, according to Kenner engineer Jacob Miles, he said, quote, projectiles were always touchy subjects, but when Battlestar Galactica had their issues, we immediately just shut it down and destroyed everything. End quote. So then if they destroyed everything, how did these get out? Well, some employees held on to some of the products and they've been sort of bandied about and passed around, and really enthusiastic collectors have tracked down former employees or relatives of a former employee to try to find them. Toy dealer Brian Ratchfall, who represented the seller in Heritage Auction, estimates there's about 100 of these models in various types in circulation among the vintage toy collectors and hobbyists.
That's the thing with being a collector. If you're a collector, you want to have everything. The problem is, as you approach having everything, your definition of everything gradually expands. Because you're like, well, initially everything didn't mean variants. Now I guess I don't have the one with the pink jacket instead of the red jacket. So I want that variant. And then there's the one that's on the refreshed card, not the old card. You start to want more. And finally you run out of those things. And it's just those grail items, of which there are only 2 or 3 in the world, that can satisfy your new maximum definition of everything. Yeah. There's your value.
I was looking up the value of Star Wars action figures because I have some of the original ones. Okay, there's a couple more, but so here, Han Solo I discovered today. There's a small head version and a big head version. I had no idea. And little Yoda here, who has all his parts, I'd like to point out. He's got his belt and his cane and his snake. I did not know there was a variant that had Pac-Man eyes.
I didn't know that either.
I was astonished.
Well, now I need it.
This one does not have Pac-Man.
There are lots
eyes.
of variants of the various figures due to different, being manufactured at different times, or different vendors who manufactured them for Kenner, who did them slightly differently from the other one, or paint, the paint dye they had. This one, they didn't have enough. They got to remake another thing, and it's slightly different than the. Now, look, I'm going to tell you, this is just an aside for us all on the show here, right? I don't know if I'm going to keep this in here, but I'm a kid, I'm a third grader, and I make a lot of crash jokes, okay? So maybe we could just say this as a fact. Now, look, it's been a long time since a child passed away. I'm really sorry to hear that. That's horrible. That's horrible.
Yes.
But what disturbs me is what is purportedly from the lawsuit from his parents against Mattel at the time. So this would be a document that was drafted by their attorneys when suing Mattel, right? This is according to Star Wars Archive. So it looks like a copy of a court document. Okay. So this is part of their complaint. The trigger mechanism on the toy is too close in proximity to the actual loading area. So small children are almost required to put their hand or finger over the trigger mechanism while attempting to load the toy. So you're going to create an accident by while you're loading it, just fire it. Right? Okay. Also, the toy is shaped in such a fashion as to be very similar to a penis, which almost beckons small children to put the toy in their mouth. What? I hope this attorney's in jail. He's up to some shit. And he's been a long time. But
I could see him reading that in court. And they're like, what, is it just me? Not you too? No, just me. Okay. That's
beckons?
Yeah.
And since the trigger mechanism is too close in proximity to the loading area, the trigger mechanism is usually hit by the children's teeth and the missile is expelled. I couldn't have said banana, popsicle. I mean, things kids actually would want to.
Hot dog.
Yeah, anything.
And even look, just say wiener and leave it ambiguous. You could do that.
Footnote. Let's see at the bottom here. Intentionally left ambiguous. Okay.
Everybody wins, right? You could just.
Yes.
So look, as John alluded to just a moment ago, the market for these things is driven by nostalgia. So ultimately, the purchasers are going to decide what these things are worth. Unlike talking about theater tickets where they're set based on, expenses. Yeah. But so it's how you feel for this thing nostalgically, but also then it comes down to also, like John said, because he's an expert in this, the quality of it and the rarity. If every Boba Fett was carded, is still carded today, they wouldn't be worth that much.
That's right.
So you
Right.
need that combination there.
Condition.
Yeah.
It's like location in real estate. Yeah. I don't care what it is, what kind of shape's it in.
Yeah.
You don't buy anything in a vintage thing unless you go, is it in the box? Can I open the box? If it's never been opened, well, hallelujah. That's great. Now, what's the condition of the outside of the box? Still in shrink wrap? Not in shrink wrap? You know,
Right.
condition. Yeah.
And John, as the official collector of the show, I wanted to ask you the veracity of this statement. I saw this article pointed out that, look, well, first of all, the article didn't need to point this out. Our show is in part based on the fact that nostalgia, or celebrating nostalgia, being reflective in this way, brings joy. You have a certain level of, dopamine and these pleasurable feelings.
Certainly.
So some
Yeah.
experts, according to this article, suggest that even though collecting was already, on the rise in the last several years, that the pandemic was a catalyst for adult mainstream interest in toys because of the fact that they could capture these things from their youth. That would trigger a sense of, safety, wonder, joy that they didn't otherwise have because they're terrified of dying because of some, mysterious virus at the time.
I can see that.
Did you purchase more during the pandemic?
Yeah, probably a little. I did go bananas, but I mean, look, you're working from home all the time. And especially I used to be on the road, like not even at home or in an office. So I was now super cabin fever, because not only am I not in an office, I'm in my house and not even on the road, which is, so you have more time to browse eBay. You have more time to, when you're supposed to be doing work, that kind of thing. So I might have picked up 4 or 5 extra things that I might not have picked up had I been busier or not thinking about that in the pandemic. Sure.
And it probably won't surprise you because we sort of alluded to this already, but now I guess this surprised me a little bit. Adults are the most lucrative consumer of toys. At this time in our history, they beat out preschoolers.
It's not volume. It's net.
There you go. Right.
Right.
You're
Sure.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you're looking at volume, the toddlers
I didn't consider that. You're right.
are getting the $3 toys. But
That makes a lot more sense. All right.
Boba Fett just
Exactly.
pulled in
They're
a
at the
half a
dollar
mil,
store.
so I'm guessing
right.
you're willing to pay more. Plus, there's this market. To your point, there's now a market of toys that aren't made for kids at all.
Sure. Like
These
the hot
premium
toys.
figures that
Yeah.
they don't go to toy stores. They go to comic book shops. They go to conventions only. It's like, oh, well, this is a premium Dalsim from Street Fighter 2, and he's got this outfit on and 744 points of articulation and 12 extra sets of hands. And kids don't want all that. They want the guys that they can go, yay, I'm fighting. We want guys we can pose and put in the glass cases. And there's a whole other branch of toy manufacturing now that caters to people willing to spend it for the higher end. Yeah.
I do see some of those hot toys that I'm lusting after. I would never spend the hundreds of dollars for them just to have it sit on a shelf, but I get the allure because of the detail. Yeah.
Right as you said, hot toys, Chad typed in hot
Is that right?
toys.
Ooh.
And so what is this?
Captioning.
What is hot toys?
Yeah.
in
Oh, hot toys. in
Mondo?
Mondo,
Yeah. It is. Yeah. It's like, yeah.
For the in the first quarter of 2024, those 18 and older spent more than $1.6 billion on toys for themselves, according to a report by Circana. I thought this was interesting. They said nearly half of adults who bought a toy for themselves in the past 12 months cited enjoyment and collecting as their motivation, but also socialization. What does that mean?
That caught my attention too. Maybe they're getting together with their friends.
40-year-olds. Play dates.
If I had to guess, it's trophy parades.
What's that? What do you
Look,
mean?
look.
I see.
Now I have it.
Sure.
I get to show you what I got. I post it on social, and you get put a little heart next to it, and look at that. That's a social interaction. That look, this I'm not interesting. This is look what I got and you don't have. If I had to guess, that's where the socialization comes in because you can parade that around. And
That's interesting.
look what I was able to score. Look at my pickup. Look what I finally got one. And everyone is jealous, and you're like, they're not jealous of you. They're jealous of that toy, but it feels like it's you a little bit because you have it.
Yeah. And as a counterexample to the fact that nostalgia could drive the demand or the price for these things, this article from CNN warns that Beanie Babies as a caution, or provides Beanie Babies as a cautionary tale, because they say Beanie Babies were actually manufactured to be collected. In fact, they would only make a certain number of types of animals. They would discontinue certain ones without any particular motivation, and because they were made to be collectible and collected almost immediately, because folks were like, "This is a market." They had no nostalgic value. You didn't have people hunting them down 20 years later. They were buying them as they came out. And so interest plummeted a few years later, and the value of the dolls, or stuffed animals, followed.
And will you talk about how you would save your cards because you thought they were nice to have, or, of course you didn't keep it on the card because you want to play with the toy. But Beanie Babies, many places where you'd pick up Beanie Babies, Hallmarks, I remember specifically, they already came with that hard acrylic shell around the paper tag, because they knew you wanted to keep it pristine. And if the tag was bent, well, they wouldn't sell off the shelf because people weren't ripping them off and throwing them in the trash. So they came pre-protected from the stores. Whereas today, you can buy an action figure, you want to keep it, or, maybe I buy an old Atari game or something. I have to get one of those protective boxes to put it in. No, this market knew what it was. It pre-protected the items for investors because they knew they wanted to keep it pristine. The condition.
The backs of my Star Wars toys, the cards were not safe for me.
Oh, you checked them off.
Well, no, here's what I did. I'd forgotten that I did this, but I rediscovered it during the pandemic. I cut out, you know how they show on the back of the card, here you can get all these other figures, right? So I cut out each of the little teeny tiny action figures, and I pretended that they were like trading cards for my dolls.
That's cool.
That's a neat idea.
I had a stack
That's
of
awesome.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. That's awesome. Yeah,
not safe.
I did. I do have a couple of my cards left over for some figures, and I did the ones that had the check boxes. Collect them all. I did have a little pencil, like I penciled in the ones I had.
So you were,
which were most of them by then. Let's catch up on some comments here. Karen said, "My brother got a mail order Serpentor from GI Joe once." Marcus says that 1977's red shag carpet was not a friend of the Viper missiles. Yeah. Jeez. Yeah, I think you unlocked a memory for me. We had something similar like that, where we had a type of carpet where toys would get lost, like Legos would get lost in. You'd find them eventually, but not the way you wanted. Chad says he had the Viper as a kid. CD Arcade says, I think I bought more Steam games during the pandemic. Yeah, we definitely played more video games during the pandemic.
Yeah, video gaming was a market that did great, that unexpectedly, because people were at home looking for entertainment, and it was entertainment in your house. Yeah, video game stores did well.
And Miss So says, I wasted so much money on games the first 2 years of the pandemic. Wasted? Come on, be easy on yourself. Brought you joy.
Maybe she hasn't played them yet, in which case it's wasted. That's what Steam does to you. It's like, it's such a deal. I've got to buy it. I'll never get to it.
And CDI Arcade also brings up something that we talked about briefly before. He says Funko, he or she says, CDI Arcade, they say Funko is the next Beanie Baby style product. They'll crash too. We've talked about that before. It's like, I just feel like there's so many of them. I don't really get the Funko thing. I think there's just way too many for me. Maybe.
They could crash, but they don't have far to go because they're not really, people collect them. Well,
there's not a secondary market. Maybe,
I'm willing here where I'm like, as I speak, I'm contradicting what I'm thinking, but there certainly are some that are incredibly valuable and rare to get.
Yeah, I remember you told us.
But as you said, there's such a multitude of available ones that you can collect a whole bunch that you want, and you're never going to pay more than, $8, $10, $12 tops for one. They're not, and although these days, now that I'm thinking about it, some of them do sell in the protector already, I guess, assuming it's for collectors. So
at the conventions, I do see, supposedly, but some of the rarer ones that go for, double digits. Yeah. I don't know enough about the market to know whether they're just marking it up because you're at a convention. And often if the celebrity's there that can sign it, that has the related, that IP, that boosts then they can get away with charging a lot.
Yeah. I think what happens really is that Funko does so many deals with so many different manufacturers and distributors that you have Target exclusives and Walmart exclusives and Comic-Con exclusives. And those are the ones that become really more valuable. Or if you have a set of like, there are 12 in my Wreck-It Ralph collection. The guy they didn't make as many of, he becomes more valuable because people trying to fill that collection, the definition of everything, if they have to have the lesser characters, they cost more because they didn't make as many.
Yeah. That was the one you told us about, Wreck-It Ralph. I remember now.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Hey, that was our show.
And our show is brought to you thanks in part to our early adopters like Rick Parker and Karen Flieger. And thank you especially to our Secret of Our Success level Patreon supporters that we are collecting. Brendan Greer, Marcus Taylor, Tony Great, Nick Guillory, Matt Marino, and John Henderson.
Thank you so much, guys, for your amazing, wonderful support. Seriously, your contributions, not only monetarily, which are, they literally pay for the show, but so many of you also join us on our lives, send us messages on Facebook or active on our Facebook page. And it helps us go emotionally and financially, so we're so grateful. Hey, if you're listening to the show and you've never done anything for us, what's wrong with you? I mean, seriously, come on. This is a quality show. Do something, won't you? Right now.
We need some
This is the only thing you got to do on your Facebook, on your podcast app. Share the episode with somebody. That's it. Just let one other person who doesn't listen. Yeah. That would be enough. Seriously, that's that. What was this shampoo? What was the shampoo? And I'll tell a friend, and so on.
And they tell two friends, and they tell two friends, and so on, and so on. Yes. Oh man. Somebody in the comments will know.
If you can, please do that. If you can actually give us money, that's amazing as well. Go to patreon.com/1980s now for more. Hey, look, you're going to probably hear me say it many times. Special thanks to Tony Great. Now that we've mentioned we're going to be at RetroCon, I do want to give him a particular shout out because this guy is, he's one of the most generous, certainly, people that we know. For a couple of reasons. One, in our community of retro stuff, he already supports the retro community by creating retro content. So, for folks like you who love it, he's got Retro Days, which is, like John mentioned earlier, celebrating yesteryear, which is one of the many different programs they have on your YouTube channel, which you should definitely check out. But in addition to that, I reached out to Tony because I know that Retro Days is a sponsor of RetroCon. They have been in the past. And I said, hey, who can I talk to about maybe us, coming out there? And he gave me the contact info. And after we worked out that with the hosts, the owners of it, that they'd like to have us there. And they like the idea of us doing a nostalgia panel. Tony, again, out of the generosity of his heart, offered to pay for our hotel rooms, offered to pay for our tickets. I shouldn't even offered. He took care of it. He took care of our hotel rooms. He took care of our tickets, our expenses for us to be there. So was not expected. So we didn't ask for it. No. It wasn't a condition of us going. He is just that amazing and wonderful of a person.
Yes. So
special thanks to Tony Great. He is truly great.
Yeah, I've learned about Tony. If he's in your corner, he's in your corner. He really is. He's enthusiastically throws himself into the things that he believes in, and he absolutely puts his money where his mouth is and supports the arts and independent creation, and he's wonderful in that way. So
and as a reminder too, he's a co-writer of Tommy and the Order of the Cosmic Champions. So just another retro product we talked about in the past. Anyways, probably not going to be the last time we thank Tony, but I wanted to make sure at least to thank him this one time since we mentioned RetroCon earlier today.
Probably not. I have to say, I picture Tony as just like on the Frosted Flakes box
with his finger in the air
because of John. Yeah, with a neckerchief on, and they're great.
I'm sorry, Tony. I don't have any control over her imagination. She screwed up The Outsiders earlier. You know where she is. She's like,
Cat just sees everyone as some kind of cat. Is just how she is. Sorry.
All right, hey, we will imagine a great show next time, just as equal, on par with this one, if not better. When we talk to you next time on 1980s Now.
Until next time.
Boba Fett.